Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful start to the weekend out there. And obviously, you'll notice my background is a little different. I am home for the holidays, as they say. So it'll probably be like this for at least a couple of days through Christmas. So I would imagine about a week or so. But hopefully, it does not impact the quality of the videos too much, even if I don't have the fancy lights behind me and all the other fun stuff. But today, we do have a good bit to talk about, from winter weather to maybe some severe weather to then winter weather once again. I think as we go into January, the models are really honing in on a pretty potent pattern change as we flip the calendar to the new year. And I really think this one has legs. I also want to say thank you here at the start to everyone who tuned in last night and watched the premiere of my 2024 Rewind, Expect the Unexpected. If you missed it, the link for it is in the description of this video, or you can just go on the channel and hit videos, and it's basically one of the first ones there. It'll kind of stick out like a sore thumb. It has a different thumbnail than everything else. So definitely, I appreciate everyone that tuned in for that. It means the world to me. All right, with that said, though, let's go ahead and start talking about weather, because we do have some pretty active things ongoing and things coming on down the road. So currently taking a look at satellite loop, a little more quiet than maybe it has been. Our big northeast storm now finally pulling away, and let me know how much snow you saw up there. From what I saw, Boston and New York City look to be the big winners out of this one, at least in the major metropolitan areas. But definitely let me know what you saw where you live, and would love to hear those reports. Other than that, some active weather just off the coast of the West Coast, but things staying relatively quiet across much of the country to start the weekend. And you can see that pretty well on radar as well. Now I'll zoom into the Northeast this morning, still seeing a very nice band of snow. This is that little back end energy that we talked about with the storm, and you can see all of that nice blue showing up there throughout all of Long Island, even up through Bridgeport, back into much of New Jersey, especially northern New Jersey, picking up on some pretty good snow last night, and definitely adding to the festive kind of vibes out there as we start the 20s of December, and we're on the 21st already. And you can even see some of that snow up here into Maine and getting into portions of New Brunswick and into Nova Scotia, seeing a good bit of that snow falling here to start your weekend. And then the core of the storm back up here, you can see this just real mess here through much of Newfoundland. The island seeing all sorts of different types of precipitation here to start the weekend. Other than that, though, folks, pretty quiet out there on radar. Now, watches, warnings, advisories, kind of the same story. Things are winding down a little bit as we enter kind of this lull, I would say, between another active period of weather right during Christmas and really right before it, as we could see more snow. And then after that, things get really active, I think, to end this year and start 2025. Now, looking at the map, again, in the east, we do have some winter weather advisories here in the purple. In a couple places. In fact, the extreme eastern section of Maine up here does have a winter storm warning. So that's really the only place in the country, I think, right now that has one, as most of the snow has begun to pull away. And then out west, more of the same. Really not seeing a whole lot. We do have some winter weather advisories up into Montana, and then some wind advisories, some dense fog advisories out into portions of California, Oregon, and Washington state. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the next couple of days a little bit, because I do see the potential for more snow really right before Christmas. And I think it's going to be one of those scenarios where the rich get richer. Those of you that have already seen snow over the past couple of days could see it again in this time frame. So let's talk about it. This is kind of what we're seeing out there right now. Let me back this up one more frame. Here's this big trough over the Northeast. That's what just brought our big storm and all of the snow. But we do have other little pieces of energy here embedded in the flow. And what I really want you to watch is this piece up here into the kind of northern Rockies there, even into portions of Canada over the next couple of days. That is going to dive south through the northern plains. And by the time we get to Sunday afternoon, we've kind of got two pieces of energy to watch. This one could produce some snowfall, and then a bigger, more potent piece of energy behind that one that could likely swing on through just in time for the 23rd into Christmas Eve, and maybe even into Christmas Day itself. All of those are going to have the potential to produce some snowfall as they swing on through what is left of this cold air. And then after that, a whole new threat begins to brew, and we'll talk about that as well here in just a moment. All right, so let's talk about the near term a little bit. This afternoon, I do still expect some northwest flow snow to continue into the mountains of the Appalachians from maybe North Carolina all the way up to West Virginia. And then also, some lingering snow showers into the Northeast as that storm pulls away. Also, some lake effect snow off of Lake Michigan and really much of the Great Lakes in general. But do be aware of this potential for some of these lake effect bands to set up. Could produce a quick couple of inches of snow for somebody Now, again, it's lake effect. I always mention this in the videos. Not everybody will see those couple of inches of snow, but some people definitely will pick up on a quick burst of accumulating snowfall. Now, that's kind of the theme today. All of that continues, and then we get into tonight, and it's more of the same. But by the time you're waking up Sunday morning, you'll notice some snow showers beginning to develop here into Wisconsin. That's that first piece of energy I talked about, beginning to produce some light snow. Now, not a big event, I don't think, but definitely a couple folks could pick up once again on a quick inch or two of snow as those snow showers work on through and get even into portions of Michigan there by Sunday afternoon and evening. And by the time we get to overnight Sunday into Monday, check out, sorry, did not mean to take a sounding, back out here towards Minnesota, another little piece of energy, that bigger second one that we talked about, beginning to get its act together and start to ramp up. So looking like a pretty active pattern here right before Christmas, one that I think will definitely produce some Christmas flakes and kind of ensure a white Christmas for some of you. Now, we'll move this ahead. This is Monday morning on the GFS model, as we're kind of out of mesoscale range at this point. And you'll notice this one is a little bit more potent of a piece of energy. It has its own kind of embedded larger trough here, I would say, as we have this pocket of cold air working behind it and even low pressure developing at the surface with this one. So less of just upper level energy. This one's producing upper level energy that is translating to surface energy by the time we're getting into Monday morning. And by the time we're going further ahead into Monday, check this out. This big kind of area of snow begins to blossom here through Wisconsin, Michigan, during your Monday afternoon, just the day before Christmas Eve. And then we get overnight into the early morning hours of Christmas Eve. We could have snowflakes falling once again in the Northeast, especially the interior Northeast. But some of these flakes could even break containment, get into the Boston area, maybe into New York City, maybe as far south as Philadelphia, not out of the question. And the GFS model here predicting that, again, that big area of snow for your Christmas Eve morning. And then during Christmas Eve afternoon, some of that snow continues to linger around, and then rain begins to develop back down into the southern plains. And that's the start of a whole new conversation that we'll talk about here in just a moment. All right, so that is the GFS model. That gets us into, this is 1 a.m. Christmas morning, so the night of Christmas Eve. We'll go a little bit further ahead in time here on, or excuse me, we're going to switch models rather. We're going to go onto the European, look at the same time frame, and here you go once more showing really the same thing. With that storm beginning to develop, we're seeing some of that snow. This is early on Monday morning, the 23rd. And continuing to work through Wisconsin, Michigan, and by the time we get to the evening of the 23rd into the overnight towards Christmas Eve morning, again, predicting those snow showers into the Northeast. Like I mentioned, I think the interior Northeast will be the big winners here, but do not be surprised as the European is projecting here. Maybe a couple flakes break containment and get out here into the Philadelphia area, New York City once again, Boston, up through Maine. This model even has a couple of snowflakes trying to get into DC early Tuesday morning, the great snow hole of the United States, it seems. And we'll see. It's possible for sure. It's definitely a pretty potent piece of energy, as I showed you. And I would not be surprised to see that one bit. And then clearing out by Christmas Eve afternoon. And by the time you're sending everyone home Christmas Eve night, should have much nicer weather, at least in terms of snowfall. It'll be chilly still, but that snow should definitely be tapering off, maybe lingering a little bit, but would not expect heavy snow Christmas Eve night. All right, so how much snow are we talking here? Well, let's take a look at some ensembles. The GFS ensembles, this is snow within a 24-hour period, and you'll notice the highest snowfall potential, again, a little bit back into the Dakotas, probably tomorrow night, and then we get into Monday morning and Monday evening. You'll notice this big blossom of at least a couple of inches of snow into northern Michigan here, including the UP and the Mitten itself, and then into portions of Ontario as well. Could get a good amount of snow out of this. And then we get into the Northeast. This is Christmas Eve morning. I think areas up into the Adirondacks, maybe into some of these other areas that are favored. Erie, Buffalo, where you could get some lake-enhanced snowfall, not necessarily lake effect, but lake-enhanced, meaning it was going to happen either way, but the lakes just kind of help boost it up some. Could see some snow, and then even a small signal, not a big one, but some flakes could make it into Boston, New York City, and then the signal drops pretty significantly from Philadelphia down to Washington, D.C. Now, I think in those places you could maybe still see the flakes fly, just less likely that you're going to get any real accumulation out of it. But, the last storm trended one way over a small period of time, so we'll see what happens with this one. as we kind of continue to monitor it. Now, the European ensemble, same event, same story really. You'll see this big blossom of snow. We get it into the right time frame. Big blossom of snow into the same places the GFS is saying really almost look kind of identical here. And yeah, so don't need to really add anything else to that. Pretty good snow into the interior Northeast, the Adirondacks up into Vermont, New Hampshire, portions of Maine, and then back into Ontario, and then a good swath into northern Michigan as well before we get into Christmas and things begin to once again quiet down. All right, now let's talk about the next thing, or the next problem, I guess. This one is not nearly as exciting as snowfall. I am watching the potential for some severe weather to return right in that time period between Christmas and New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, I guess, as well. I don't think it'll last that entire week, but I do think there will be a good little period here between, we'll say, the 25th through the 27th, 28th, 30th even, that could definitely see some active weather. Now, here's the setup. We've got a big ridge in the east this time frame. This is actually, let me move this. No, this is fine. This is Christmas Eve afternoon. You'll notice this big ridge beginning to develop in the east, and this is going to warm things back up pretty significantly around the Christmas time frame, kind of after those two little systems I just showed you. We're going to see a pretty good warm up for most folks, and at the same time, you've got this big trough dipping down into the west coast, and what's going to happen is this is likely going to fire off a storm somewhere over the plains, and that's going to tap into all of this warm Gulf air that is surging northward due to this ridging, and unfortunately, that is a perfect recipe for severe weather in the month of December for places that would generally be more at risk further south into the United States. Now, the GFS ensembles show this pretty well. Look at this low pressure beginning to develop. This is Christmas evening. You'll notice a lot of the members getting low pressure, a good old-fashioned Colorado low, as we call them, just meaning that's developing at this baroclinic zone that is favorable for cyclogenesis in and around the Colorado area, kind of there into the foothills. And then likely the GFS ensembles here depict this kind of hanging around and working around, and a couple other little storms forming here. You'll notice with this blue and kind of these little numbers showing up on your map here right into the heart of the country during that time frame just after Christmas. Now, what does this mean for you? Are you going to see severe weather? Well, if we look at the ingredients on the GFS ensemble, this is Monday afternoon, really no ingredients for severe weather anywhere. But we move it further ahead into time. We get this into Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening. Notice some ingredients beginning to kind of align here and build up down south towards Texas. And then eventually we go later in the week, and this surges northward by Friday the 27th into Saturday the 28th. A lot of folks, I think, could at least have the threat of severe weather. Now, I don't necessarily think this is going to be a massive tornado outbreak or anything like that, but we need to watch it, as you do with any type of weather. This one specifically, probably a little more dangerous than other types, and could even try to work into the southeast by the time we're flipping that calendar from New Year, or from 2024 into the New Year 2025. So that's definitely going to be a big weather story. Now, no specific details on exact communities, exact types of severe weather. We've still got time to monitor it, but just know the ingredients are kind of, aligning here for that potential of strong to severe storms. All right, now what could this look like on radar, or at least the general surface map? I'll kind of show this to you. So here we go. This is the Christmas Eve. You'll notice one little storm developing. This one, probably not a huge severe weather threat, maybe a little bit further south here, but I think this one's going to be more of just some good old-fashioned rain. It's the storm behind it right into this time frame. This is Thursday the 27th. Thursday the 26th into Friday the 27th, and you'll notice I think this one's going to be a bit more of a problem, as we kind of probably have some more instability to work with, and likely stronger wind shear as well during the end of this coming week, and that one moves north, and then another storm forms that could probably have the potential to produce severe weather. And then we get to this time frame, folks, and this is kind of the next part of the video we're going to talk about. This is as we're flipping the calendar again from 2024 to 2025, and I think we're going to definitely have the potential to return the winter pattern. So let me show you some ensembles. This is the GFS 500 millibar height anomaly map prediction for kind of the extended range. And we'll start this kind of where we left off a little bit. So this is that severe weather threat time frame we talked about. Notice this troughing out west, that's likely to produce a storm, and then this ridging in the east, that's going to bring the warmer temperatures. So like I mentioned, definitely a pretty solid setup for severe weather there going into the 27th. But we go kind of into the last couple of days here of 2024, and notice what happens. This is New Year's Eve. By the way, I'll add, I have not had a cup of coffee this morning for the first time in probably a couple of weeks, so it's probably showing a little bit. But work with me here. Here we go, though. This is Christmas. I said it again. This is New Year's Eve. I promise. We'll get through the last couple minutes of this. New Year's Eve afternoon. Notice the pattern now beginning to flip a little bit. A lot more troughing into the central and southern half of the country and getting back into the east. And I think this is the start of a pattern for the first week at least of January. And check this out, folks. As we get right here into the start of January, this is a good pattern for a return to snow and a return to cold air. Big ridging in Alaska, even some ridging here up into Greenland. That creates a perfect pathway for potentially Arctic, at least polar, I would imagine, air back down into the lower 48. Now, obviously, this map is 350 hours out, so not quite 15 days, but about 10 to 15 days out from now. And, we're going to need to wiggle this into a more reliable time frame, but it's not just the GFS. I'll show you the European here as well. And the European arguably is even a better look for some winter weather in this time frame. Here we go, Wednesday afternoon, January 1st, a little bit sooner on the European even. Strong ridge, and this is even a little bit further east on this ridge, and that's what you want to see for snow into areas that struggle to get it a little bit more, kind of in that circled area on your map. And then again, some ridging back up here into Greenland. And really, I mean, folks, this is one of the better looking patterns I've seen for snowfall, or at least cold weather and storminess into the eastern half of the country for that first little bit of January. Really just a beautiful look here with troughing right where you want it, ridging right where you want it. And yeah, it doesn't get much better than this. Now, the problem, again, this is about 10 to 15 days from now. So can the models maintain it? Can they keep it going? That'll be the million-dollar question that we need to kind of figure out together. But before we even get here, again, we've got some Christmas snow, at least a little bit before Christmas. We've got severe weather after Christmas. And then all eyes would turn to this as we flip the calendar and get ready to kind of start working on those New Year resolutions. Now, final thing I'll show you, this is kind of projected snowfall from the ensembles. And this isn't to show you a specific place that's going to get big snow out of this January pattern, but just to show you as I move this ahead, this is starting basically. We'll move this. This is New Year's Eve. Remember, I didn't say Christmas Eve that time. This is New Year's Eve. And you'll notice now between then, most of the snow out into the Rockies as the troughing works back out there. Some snow, again, from Christmas, or now to Christmas, into the Great Lakes and portions of the Northeast. But from, Christmas through the 31st, really not much snow outside of the Rocky Mountains. It's after that, though, we get into January and notice the snow building back in here on the ensembles and even trying to get a good bit south here, and we'll see if that's something we can make happen. Let's hope, fingers crossed, we can finally get some snow in portions that haven't seen it in a while, into the Carolinas, Georgia, portions of Virginia, and the Delmarva that have not seen really any snow, or at least any appreciable amount in a significant period of time. So that's what we have right now. We'll see, we'll watch it, we'll monitor it, and I'll definitely keep you up to date. Alrighty, folks, with that said, I appreciate you tuning in. Probably a little bit of a shorter video today, but now that we're done with a big northeast storm and I'm on, kind of a vacation-ish, I'm going to try to, be a little more relaxed. So with that said, y'all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.